When I was 14, I read the transcript of Fannie Lou Hamer's testimony at the Democratic National Convention in 1964. After reading this transcript for the first time, it changed the course of my life. And maybe by reading it to you today, it will do the same for you. It begins. Mr. Chairman and the Credentials Committee, my name is Miss Fannie Lou Hamer, and I live at 626 East Lafayette Street, Rouville, Mississippi, Sunflower County, the home of Senator James O. Eastland and Senator Stennis. It was the 31st of August in 1962 that 18 of us traveled 26 miles to the county courthouse in Indianola to try to register, to try to become first-class citizens. We was met in Indianola by Mississippi men, highway patrolmen, and they only allowed 2 of us to take the literacy test at a time. After we had taken the test and started back to Rouville, we was held up by the city police and the state highway patrolmen and carried back to Indianola, where the bus driver was charged that day with driving a bus the wrong color. After we paid the fine amongst us, we continued on to Rouville, and Reverend Jeff Sonny carried me 4 miles in the rural area where I had worked as a timekeeper and a sharecropper for 18 years. I was met there by my children, who told me that the plantation owner was angry because I had gone down to try to register. After they told me, my husband came and said that the plantation owner was raising Cain because I had tried to register. And before he quit talking, the plantation owner came and said, "Fannie Lou, do you know? Did Pap tell you what I said?" And I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "I meant that." He said, "If you don't go down and withdraw your registration, you will have to leave. Then if you go down and withdraw," he said, you might have to go because we are not ready for that in Mississippi." And I addressed him and told him and said, "I didn't try to register for you. I tried to register for myself." I had to leave that same night. On the 10th of September 1962, 16 bullets was fired into the home of Mr. and Mrs. Robert Tucker for me. That same night, 2 girls were shot in Rouville, Mississippi. Also, Mr. Joe McDonald's house was shot in. And in June the 9th, 1963, I had attended a voter registration workshop, was returning back to Mississippi. 10 of us was traveling by the Continental Trailway bus. When we got to Winona, Mississippi, which is in Montgomery County, 4 of the people got off the bus to use the washroom, and 2 of the people to use the restaurant. 2 of the people wanted to use the washroom. The 4 people that had gone in to use the restaurant was ordered out. During this time, I was on the bus, but when I looked through the window and saw they had rushed out, I got off the bus to see what had happened. And one of the ladies said it was a state highway patrolman, and a chief of police ordered us out. I got back on the bus, and one of the persons had used the washroom got back on the bus. As soon as I was seated on the bus, I saw when they began to get the 4 people in a highway patrolman's car. I stepped off the bus to see what was happening, and somebody screamed from the car that the 4 workers was in and said, "Get that one there." And when I went to get in the car, when the man told me I was under arrest, he kicked me. I was carried to the county jail and put in the booking room. They left some of the people in the booking room and began to place us in cells. I was placed in a cell with a young woman called Miss Everesta Simpson. After I was placed in the cell, I began to hear the sound of kicks and horrible screams. And I could hear somebody say, "Can you say yes? Yes, sir, nigga? Can you say yes, sir?" And they would say other horrible names. They would say, "Yes, I can say yes, sir. So say it." She says, "I don't know you well enough." They beat her, and I don't know how long. And after a while, she began to pray and ask God to have mercy on these people. And it wasn't too long before the 3 white men came to my cell. One of these men was a state highway patrolman, and he asked me where I was from. And I told him Rouville. He said, "We're going to go check this." And they left my cell, and it wasn't too long before they came back. He said, "You are from Rouville, all right." And he used a curse word, and he said, "We are going to make you wish you was dead." I was carried out of that cell into another cell where they had 2 Negro prisoners, and the state highway patrolman ordered the first Negro to take the blackjack. The first Negro prisoner ordered me, by orders from the state highway patrolman, for me to lay down on a bunk bed on my face, and I laid on my face. The first Negro began to beat, and I was beat by the first Negro until he was exhausted, and I was holding my hands behind me at the time on my left side because I suffered from polio when I was 6 years old. After the first Negro had beat until he was exhausted, The state highway patrolman ordered the second Negro to take the blackjack. The second Negro began to beat, and I began to work my feet. And the state highway patrolman ordered the first Negro who had beat to sit on my feet to keep me from working my feet. I began to scream, and one white man got up and began to beat me, my head, and told me to hush. One white man, my dress had worked up high, and he walked over and pulled my dress down, and he pulled my dress back up. I was in jail when Medgar Evers was murdered. All this is on account we want to register to become first-class citizens. And if the Freedom Democratic Party is not seated now, I question America. Is this America, the land of the free and the home of the brave, where we have to sleep with our telephones off the hooks because our lives be threatened daily, because we want to live as decent human beings in America? And that is the end of the transcript. We don't get to sit this one out. We don't get to put our heads in the sand. Our ancestors, they went through things that deserve our respect and our discipline in this moment to fight for the life they didn't get to live. I love you, black man. I love you, black woman. Knowledge is power. Power to the people.